Right, we'll move swiftly on, if that's okay with everybody, on to item 7, which is the missing people update. So I'll hand straight over to you on this one.
Well, again, responding to reports of missing is a core policing priority and recognises the risks that many missing people are exposed to, particularly those with mental health issues, the elderly and children. And the link between missing and child sexual exploitation that we've just heard about is widely recognised. Missing is a key policing priority, remains a high demand and usually complex area of business. The Missing Authorised Professional Practice, the APP, was launched in January 2017, and that's certainly been embedded across West Yorkshire with a greater degree of consistency being applied to risk assessments. I'm just mindful that the reporting of missing vulnerable people continues to rise across the county, and monthly levels have now stabilised but remain high, with 9,573 missing occurrences reported between April 2017 and August 2017, and again represents a further 14% increase in the same period last year, so we are seeing a rise. We're also seeing a rise in the number of those missing persons reports that are graded as high risk, which as a consequence then requires a greater level of resourcing. And again, almost 2/3 of children reported to us are high risk, and over a quarter are at risk of potential for child sexual exploitation, which again brings an aggravating factor with it in terms of managing that particular risk. I'm just mindful that when we do have high risk missing from homes, we put significant resources in place, dedicate a special operations room to command and control the investigation around that, to try and identify, locate the vulnerable person and return them back to their home. We've got some significant issues in terms of children missing from the Kira local authority, which I would argue has increased significantly by 30%. And again, we've also seen a 22% increase in recorded children's homes on our police system since 2016, with Bradford and Kirklees seeing the largest increases, particularly those classified as private care homes. And it's believed that due to more affordable housing within those districts, and as such, the Force area is a net importer of vulnerable young people with complex needs who do have a propensity to go missing quite frequently. And my view is that's having a significant demand on the resourcing within West Yorkshire Police. And we've got some narrative within the report that breaks down the figures around that, but that's certainly something that's causing us significant concern within West Yorkshire Police, and I would certainly turn to yourself, Commissioner, with a view to bringing partners together, with a view to try and reconcile some of those challenges around these vulnerable people, particularly in the Kira local authority, and moreover within private care homes. So that's the overview in terms of the threat and risk. If you can turn to yourself, Darren, around some of the ongoing work and developments in terms of trying to abate that trend and manage that significant demand of the organisation.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. Commissioner, you'll see from the report there's quite a detailed summary of ongoing work, and again, if you're okay, I'd just like to pick out some key developments, if that's okay. I do remember at the last community outreach meeting that we were in the process of looking to develop the national working group around missing. Well, I've managed now to get onto that. I think that was through Local Barcode that I got myself on there. However, I am fully ensconced in it now and an active member. The first meeting was in the 15th of November, and that was basically an introductory meeting to look at the issues that are affecting policing nationally. That body, or that particular group, will actually inform a wider policing group, which will ultimately report to the Home Secretary, who has got an active interest in missing children, and certainly those from missing from local authority. So we're in a position now where we can actually find out and share and develop good practice from a regional point of view. So I represent the region now on that particular group. So we're at the forefront in terms of capturing good practice, sharing good practice, and looking to bring those to West Yorkshire. Interestingly, the authorised professional practice, the app, was developed by the MPCC, Lee Mike Beale, also under his jurisdiction. So not all forces have adapted that yet, and I think that we are one of certainly a handful, and I use of term handful in terms of maybe 4 or 5 forces that have adapted that app in fully. So some of the wider forces, and again talking nationally, that are going to be a little bit behind in terms of their recording. So figures that are reported to the NCA in terms of data might not necessarily be a true reflection of what their actual demand is, but we've adopted that, and I think our data, when I shared our data that we've got, was described as probably the best in the country that we've got around that. So all the data that we've got around missing from home, missing children's homes, hospitals, the reasons why those are going missing, all that was shared, adapted and shared with the wider group, and it was actually very pleasing. I sat there quite smoothly, if I'm being honest, knowing that was the case. So there are some areas that we can look to develop. Again, we do share all our data now with Ofsted and CQC with a view to them to assisting us with trying to mitigate the demand, and certainly making sure that those within the NHS and those within private social care and local authority are fulfilling their requirements as per the legislation. We've briefed all our architectural liaison officers, and Mr Foster alluded to the increase in the number of children's homes. So we are seeing a movement from adult social residential care to children's social care, simply because of the profits that are associated with that. So we've briefed our architectural liaison officers that work with our partners within planning departments to see if there's any opportunities there to have discussions prior to those new homes being built or changed of use within West Yorkshire. And I think again that's something that is a positive right step. All 5 districts now and local authorities are involved in what we call the missing consortium, and that certainly from your office, Celeste Armitage, is actively involved in that group. I think taking that forward, I think there's opportunities around there for sharing all that data, which we do, and actually challenging our partners around some of the issues with children's homes and adult social care. We have a robust audit regime in place to it's featured on the local accountability meetings on a number of times. We're actually asking districts what they're doing in terms of challenging local authorities, active involvement with the children's homes and adult care, where we're seeing repeat missing people, to look at problem solving, and all this is geared around linked to the early intervention and prevention strategy that we're developing within West Yorkshire. And I think that's a real key element. If we can stop them doing this, and we're not going to create a demand. So it's really important that it's all linked to that. In terms of data, we have seen a significant reduction in the number of people classed as what was formerly absent but no apparent risk. And to me, that again is a positive, because what's I believe is the catalyst for that is one of the training that we've done. But our officers and inspectors within the hubs are identifying risk earlier and categorising that, which obviously does in turn have an impact upon how we resource and deal with those missing episodes. So again, nationally, that is the right way to go. In terms of just benchmarking and water testing, in terms of actually, I think we're getting it right in terms of assessing risk around those individuals. Just quickly flipping over, the ongoing, I would say saga, but the cross-government strategy, which seems to be like the golden place, to be honest, was due to be published in December, is now going to be published in spring, so it's gone from a month to a spring. So I'm hoping, again, it was something I was quite vocal about, if I'm being honest, at the National Working Group, because it's almost 12 months overdue. If you recall, December 2016, we were talking about the National Cross-Government Strategy. I'm told the reason why it's been delayed is because obviously the elections followed by Brexit, and obviously it's waiting for the Minister to sign it off, basically, and I think that's been the issue. But one thing that will be the National Action Plan. We're already working on that, so we've got some of the elements of what will be the action plan ultimately to try and obviously embed in West Yorkshire, which fits in with the wider vulnerability action plan which we're developing. So,
I'll bite my tongue on that one in terms of government strategies, but yeah.
It is frustrating, because I think it obviously does hold our partners to account a little bit more.
Well, it's 2 years behind, basically. Yeah.
And I think that's it. I think I'll pause there. That's okay.
Well, thank you, and as you know, I am very willing to play a key role in bringing people together around this, and as you know, we launched the current police and crime plan on the back of an event looking at the issue of missing persons. So it is good to see the progress that has been made despite a lack of a government plan, as you just highlighted, and the establishment of the local authority forum, where clearly they are key to bringing this together as well. You touched on the authorised professional practice. Do you feel as though we're doing as much as we can around the rollout of that at the moment?
Yes, it's going well. I think there's still opportunities to continue to improve upon that. And I think that's again with what the cross-government strategy I'm hoping will help us look at is around our tactical options in terms of respective risk. Because I think not all, we don't have to have a set of tactical options around a particular high-risk misbehavior, but actually like a missing person. If we can do a phone check on a particular, which doesn't have to be high risk, then hopefully the cross-government strategy will allow us to use other tactical options at a more appropriate level in terms of trying to get that person back safe and well. I do think we're ahead of the game with that, and I think other forces will have to play catch up.
I think there's an opportunity though, Commissioner, if you are going to continue to sort of follow this particular area of business, where in the same way that we've had mental health nurses posted within our control rooms, to have that good practice of having somebody from an emergency duty team or social care attending an SOR where it's appropriate, I think would be really, really good, and I think that's something that we would like to encourage. So I do think that that's something that you could very definitely help us with. The other area is, I am getting increasingly concerned, to hear that in 2 years we've gone up to 99 homes now, of which obviously the greater percentage is now private, albeit that they are housing people on behalf of local authorities. There has to be a point where we have a conversation to say we've got more than our fair share of these registered homes. They have to be registered and licensed to practice, and I think there's a conversation that needs to be had there as well, because it is having a huge impact on ourselves, particularly when children and young people are placed from out of their area. They're completely and utterly in an unknown space. It is entirely understandable why the first thing that they want to do is to try and find their way back to more familiar territory. So I do think there's another conversation to be had there.
Yeah, no, and I think again we need to think about what sort of event we might want to arrange on the back of the work that has been done in the last 12 months, but clearly taking on board some of the national work that you're now involved with as well, though. So, yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah.
The whole League People Informed report that's just come out, the second part of the children's homes, is very supportive of the policing problems caused by some of the children's homes. It's quite clear on that, and I think that adds the evidence base to that. Also, Celeste from your office has been putting together a report with the police and with partners to try and come up with some recommendations to put in front of yourselves and other leaders to discuss and consider. And I think that might be the way forward, and not taking on board some of the recommendations from here. I think need to be brought to senior leaders to decide as to how to approach this type of discussions with a number of other people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, whilst it is welcome that say at the beginning of the report that the numbers have stabilised, nevertheless, it's still a very high number, around 9,500 occurrences, which is still a 14% increase. And added to what Dee's just said around the increase in homes, and whether that's private or local authority, but the question that follows on, I guess, is there a timeline for the crime prevention study into the repeat missing from force vulnerability crime reduction officer? Is that Is that work in train?
It's ongoing. Yeah, it's again, it's a great innovative piece of work, and again, I share this nationally. They're actually all costs that are represented there. We're very interested to see that from this. So, Chris Joyce and myself are leading on that piece of work. It's going to SEC Hankinson this month to be signed off from an ethics point of view. February we will commence the interviews with the children. We will then do a mid-debrief in respect of that, and then conclude the full interviews by the 31st of March. And by April, there will be a full report in respect of that for the Chief Executive and we start in terms of what we've done with that. But, yeah, we're very interested in that piece of work. There's nothing to be done around that. We do it for birders, don't we, and such like. I think it's really quite creative.
Yeah, so, you know, I heard what you say about the role of the architectural liaison officers. But do they only get involved when there's an application for a new dwelling, or that they has to go back and re-inspect the homes that are already in place?
Yeah, I think there's opportunities for the children's homes. Again, when I raised this previously, there was some uncomfortable movement, shall I say, in terms of, because obviously we have no jurisdiction over the local authority children's homes. But what I was trying to promote really is that some of these locations might need some of that crime prevention to stop young people going missing and putting themselves at risk. So that office is there to local authorities for activity liaison officers and crime prevention officers to go in to make sure that actually they are fit for purpose and safe for individuals, and we will do that in conjunction with the local authority if necessary. What else we've done with our architectural liaison officers, obviously if there's a change of use, we'll get notified of that. Also, Ofsted through information sharing agreement will notify us of new emerging homes. So what I'm wanting to do on the back of all that is almost develop, I hate to use the word triage, but almost a discussion around what exactly this articulating chief is around actually, is that individual or that home suitable for that location, and have those discussions with the providers, you know, to what, because ultimately we want to make sure that the children are safe and is it appropriate.
I just think that given everything that we know, that we've talked about today in this report, there is a case for going back to local authorities to inform them of some of these key stats, if you like, and make an offer around crime prevention stroke architectural liaison officers to go back and re-look potentially at some of these sites, because you know it's in all our interest surely for if it is children, to be kept as safe as possible.
Well, and also, you know, if you're talking about holding another event, what are others doing to try and make sure that those kids and young people are engaged sufficiently to keep them safe inside those premises rather than them wanting to go out?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the crime prevention, the architectural liaison is only one aspect of this, but nevertheless is a good way of getting back in to start to have some of these conversations for something that might not have been looked at for 2 or 3 years at least.
What we do around the data, obviously I'm conscious of that. I share that with the LSCB, so the local children's safeguarding board, and just share that data with them. So through their performance measures, should be having those discussions with the local safeguarding boards around the volumes of children that are going missing from local authority providers and actual private care. So they do get that data.
Yeah. But it's then, but it's the follow-up then, isn't it? About, well, if they're in receipt of that data, what they're actually doing about it. So it's, whatever role I need to play, we need to look at that and take on board the key sort of highlights from this latest information.
I think Commissioner Stewart's letter or whatever you're talking might be the answer, because one solution may be to request the local authorities not to allow any more private, because it rather feels, and we'll look at the evidence base, but it rather feels that we've got more places available, way more places than we would ever need for West Yorkshire children, and therefore by default we're policing the missing of other local authorities, which is a good thing in the global scale of national policing. But actually, Kirklees, by way of example, is disproportionately out to kilt with the amount of children's homes, and therefore, it's something that there, rather than the homes themselves, is how many there are of them.
Yeah, no, and I think being able to have, those conversations with the data to hand is important, because you know, if we're going to go in and make those types of requests, we've got to be sure of the data to allow planning committees or whoever to you know, to have a rationale for not allowing any further homes if that is what is being said.
And similarly, if we've got children's homes that don't have any problems and don't have any issues, why are they being successful? What's working?
Yeah, because I understand in Wakefield there's some good work going on at the moment around
Yes, there is. Yeah,
working with homes. Is that
yes,
is that
there
right?
Yeah, PCSOs that are dedicated to some children's homes. We've managed to do what is called the Erase project, but it's a localised project. That's something that we developed on the back of visiting Durham Constarrow. Yeah, and that's actually just problem solving, actually speaking to the children, and so the PCSOs are known by the first names rather than actually PCSOs and PCSO Hill, etc. But they're known by the first names, and we are actually starting to see some green shoots in terms of reductions of children going from our most problematic homes within Liverpool. So again, that's as positive as that now.
Yeah. So that might be something we can throw into the mix around PCSO sort of involvement around some of these locations. Yeah. Okay, anything? Okay, well thanks very much for that report. Again, covered a lot of ground, but you know, it is a very topical one and really important in terms of vulnerability and some of the risks that we face. So thanks for that update.